How you doing today, folks? Now, it is October 31st. Happy Halloween to all you amazing folks out there. Night before last, the gods saw fit to give me a Halloween makeover and a spider hit me in the goddamn face. But I'm doing alright. A little sick, a little underneath the weather. But anyways, so there's a giveaway for this knife currently live. Again, this is October 31st. The giveaway is going to be done on probably the afternoon in the 1st. So you have about a day and a half. So if what I say in this video interests you, click off. I'll have a link in the actual description. Go ahead and submit your comment. You're going to have to follow a couple of excellent channels, but you have a chance to win this very interesting and very goddamn hard to find knife. But anyways, folks, I love you all, and let's get started.
The Serge Panchenko bean is a very tiny knife, almost a third pocket knife, but it has some very interesting features and styles that personally I really enjoy. The bean features gorgeous titanium scales and an overall fantastic design that echoes on the front and the back, and it is a beautiful, beautiful knife. The bean is also a front flipping knife, but because of how overall small this knife is, for my size 2XL hands, it's honestly dangerous to flip this knife. However, it does feature a very interesting locking mechanism with this double detent that is honestly really and genuinely fantastic. It gives you just enough of a bite to where you're not going to actually cut your fingers off or cut yourself really in general, while also providing a very fidget-friendly experience that overall I really happen to enjoy. Furthermore, I actually have a friend of mine that, similar to our ancestors, actually hard uses this knife. There is this gigantic thing going on where everything needs to be overbuilt and hard use, but I'm sorry, our ancestors that actually founded our country as well as our world once upon a time carried things that were slip joint, friction folders, and basically sharpened sticks, and they made it work. And I do assure you that if you want to hard use the Serge Panchenko bean, there are some minor caveats to it, but you definitely can. My buddy beats the absolute hell out of his, and the things he's able to get done with that knife honestly shock me. Honestly, the Serge Panchenko bean is a pretty shocking knife in general. It is, again, functionally beautiful, very interesting, tiny, but somehow workable, and just overall a fantastic piece that very much continues to surprise me. But I do assure you folks, there are negatives in this review, and they are coming, but for right now, let's just take a look at this gorgeous, gorgeous piece with minimal branding and overall just a fantastic piece. And once again, this has M390 steel, which is an absolutely good to go steel, fantastic in most ways. The craziest thing about it is that this is for the most part a light use knife as far as most folks EDC, so it is entirely possible that this knife will stay sharp forever. If you only lightly use M390, it will not go dull. So this could be your one knife forever if you do so choose, and again, you're not looking to hard use it. But again, if you want to hard use it, god damn it, you can. My buddy proved me wrong about 1,000,000-fold. Now, out of the box, that M390 comes absolutely screaming sharp. As you can see, this thing is pretty fat, and again, it glides through like it's nothing. That's about 30 pieces of paper all wrapped together in a coupon book. And again, it glides through with absolutely zero resistance. It does take a little bit of force to push it on through the paper, but again, once the actual blade takes effect, perfect. Now, I'm not exactly a small knife guy, to say the very least, but again, some of my absolute favorite users, the Panchenko bean is downright cute. It's so tiny. But again, this tiny little thing packs a punch. It's adorable. It's actually very close in overall size to the Boker Mini Kalashnikov, but again, it's still a very tiny knife. We also have a full-size Black Widow Kalashnikov as well as a CRKT CEO, and again, it is a tiny, tiny knife. On the downside, however, the Panchenko bean has a real hard time properly centering. almost no matter what you do, you will get blade rub. It's very slight blade rub, but it is definitely still there. And if you do decide to tighten it all the way, all of a sudden this knife becomes an absolute pain in the ass to actuate. So it really is an unfortunate trade-off, but again, for whatever reason, this knife was designed to where you will pretty much always have an off-center blade. But to be completely honest, folks, in the greater scheme of things, that's a kind of a petty complaint in regards to an overall fantastic piece that so far I really happen to enjoy, and whoever wins it, I have a feeling they're going to enjoy it as well. Now, if you want to hard use this knife, again, just hold it a certain way, and again, it becomes an absolute razor blade and an absolute joy to carry for, again, that kind of third pocket knife. Now, me personally, I tend to always carry bigger knives, so a knife like this is just so very important. Now, normally I carry a big O folding knife, a small fixed blade, as well as something like this. Now, this is the CRKT CEO, which is pretty much always in my pocket at all times since I got it. And I love this knife because there are so many sheeples in the world and so many people that just can't quite handle you whipping out a big, gigantic knife. Now, maybe you're a tough guy, maybe you don't care, maybe you don't have a job, and all of those things are completely fine. Me personally, I have no desire to scare somebody. So if I can avoid making somebody run for the hills, all for the grand goal of opening up a package, honestly, for the most part, I will. And something like this fits that role pretty much perfectly. But that was the positive. Now on to the negative. Firstly, for my size 2XL hand, this is a 2-finger knife, and I mean it is barely even a 2-finger knife, which is not particularly comfortable. But again, if you hold it the way I showed it to you, where you basically wrap your fingers around the side and treat it like kind of like a box cutter or a razor blade, this thing becomes really comfortable. You can also hold it from the physical blade itself, and again, just do the pressure cuts, and it works honestly perfectly. This is a knife that is very much designed with a little bit of ingenuity in mind. You got to think outside the box to be able to use it properly, but once you do, it just clicks. Something that does bear mentioning, though, is I have not been able to deploy this knife without using crazy amounts of wrist. Now, I feel like you're supposed to actually use the flipper tab to partially deploy and then roll it out with the thumb opener. And for that, it definitely does work. It does not feel particularly intuitive, though, and that's kind of a downside. Now, to be very clear, you actually can deploy this while just using the actual flipper tab, but you have to use so much force that you basically have to swing your entire arm out, or at least I do anyways. Now, fun story about that, I was actually in the grocery store and one of my friends asked me to cut a string off of the back of his jacket, and I pulled out this, went to flick it, it did not flick, so then I threw my whole arm out, and there happened to be a guy walking past who I did not hit, to be very clear, but it came so goddamn close. This man actually went and called security. So this knife is beautiful, functional, but can be a little bit dangerous, so be kind of careful. Or maybe I'm just a clumsy fuck. Who the hell knows? But either way, my overall score for this knife, to be very clear, this is my overall score as far as me being my individual self, which is a gigantic ginger with giant hands, is going to be a 7. Now, if you happen to be in the more EDC roll niche category, your mileage will definitely vary. For me personally, the knife was just a little bit too small. The ergonomics were not quite ideal, but even still, I really happen to enjoy it, which is why it gets a 7, which is a positive score. Now, as far as a generalized EDC roll, or even kind of like a third pocket backup knife, honestly, I would give this knife a 10. I feel like that is the role it is designed for, and it absolutely shines in that role. For every single thing that I personally dislike about it because of the size, there is something else that it's only possible because of the size and the overall design of the knife. The Serge Panchenko bean is very much a classic and staple of the EDC industry, and it's that way for a reason, man. This knife is just so trippy, so strange, but there are little downsides to it, to be very clear, but none of those I really feel like detract from the fact that this knife is overall a really, really good piece. Again, that is functionally beautiful. The clip is nice. It does tend to slide out of your pocket. It has never actually fallen to the ground, but it has come very close, so that's kind of a downside. But again, it being so small, I don't actually think it'll ever fall out. I think it just comes close. And again, the centering is off a little bit no matter what you do, but again, compared to what the overall piece is of this knife, I just feel it doesn't really detract from it as much as it possibly should in other knives. So again, my overall score as an individual is going to be a 7 out of 10. An EDC roll for this knife, 10 out of 10. This thing is absolutely fantastic. And again, I love the design. I love the style. This knife surprised me to no end. And again, I loved it, and I really, really think whoever wins this knife is going to love it too. Now, as always, folks, I appreciate you all from the bottom of my heart. Please take care right now, man. Everything is absolutely crazy. I don't care what side of the spectrum you fall on. Respect each other, love each other, and do the best you can to be kind to one another, because that's what we all deserve right now. Just a little bit of kindness, forgiveness, and acceptance. Now, as always, folks, I love you all. Take care, and bye.